What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO, World Boxing Organization welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Crawford is 38 wins, no losses, no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout. He is 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. With that said, Terence Crawford is negotiating the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, the biggest fight in his career, against undefeated, unified 3-belt WBC, WBA, IBF welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, Errol Spence Jr., who is widely considered by many to be top 2, if not, some would argue, the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Errol Spence is 28 wins, no losses, no draw, 22 big wins by way of knockout. He is 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. With that said, Team Crawford, they come out and they say, why can't Terence Crawford receive a 50-50 split deal with Errol Spence Jr.? And that's holding up the negotiations, right? Because the money that Terence Crawford is looking for. So the money that Terence Crawford is looking for, according to Team Crawford, and I say Team Crawford respectfully, because Terence Crawford is not a big talker in the public. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, and he co-signs his team, right? He allows them to speak for him, right? And so with that said, Team Crawford, they're saying, why can't we get a 50-50 split deal with Errol Spence Jr., right? And this is a part of holding up the negotiations. Now, we had legendary Hall of Fame, iconic CEO of Top Rank, that being Bob Arum. He came out yesterday, well, a few days ago, and he spoke about this big fight between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. Will it happen? What's holding it up? And Bob Arum, he stated that the piracy within the sport of boxing from the fans is holding up the Terence Crawford-Errol Spence fight, and that too many fans are illegally streaming these fights and taking the fights. And so the money is not there to pay the massive purses, okay? And so because the money is not there to pay the massive purses, the fight is being held up because the fighters want massive amounts of money to stage the fight, right? And so with that said, Bob Arum says he don't believe the fight is going to happen. So now we have Team Crawford come out and they say, why can't they receive a 50-50 split for the Errol Spence fight? Well, there's multiple reasons why you should get a 50-50 split, but then there's multiple reasons as to why you shouldn't get a 50-50 split, right? And I know people are going to say, well, why are the fans and the media and the boxing pundits concerned with the splits? Well, because it's always been a part of the sport of boxing and it's always been publicized. The difference is you have social media today where teams are coming out and they're discussing splits. Now you have Team Crawford saying, why can't they receive a 50-50 split? They should be able to receive a 50-50 split. So they publicize it, right? And so with that said, when you look at the numbers, okay, historically, the sport of boxing has been negotiated in the public somewhat, period. Whether it was the situation with Aaron Pryor and Sugar Ray Leonard that never came to fruition, and it was different reports as to why the fight didn't happen and splits and money. It's always been publicized. You had Sugar Ray Robinson, the legendary, arguably the GOAT in the sport of boxing, who used to, publicly make it known that when he get to fights, he wait till he get to the arena to, negotiate his contract to see just how many people is in the arena, right? So this is nothing new under the sun. But, when you have fans that, just aren't happy with the fight not coming to fruition, and they just start to say things like, oh, nobody should be concerned with the splits and the money. Well, it's a part of the sport of boxing. It's a part of all sports. We know every athlete's contract is publicly being talked about on every sports platform. Okay, you turn on ESPN, just about every how much amount of money every NFL, NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball player makes. Why? Because it's a part of the sport, right? And you have these major platforms talking about the splits and the monies. That's why. And so when it comes to this situation, right, now you have a situation where the reality is Terence Crawford can ask for what he wants, period, right? Because Terence Crawford is, you know, a well-decorated, accomplished boxer, and he's considered the best fighter in the world. So yeah, Terence Crawford can make a case to get a 50-50 split. But at the same time, Errol Spence can make a case not to give him a 50-50 split. So they can be at a crossroads, and people are going to blame Errol Spence because they want Errol Spence to, you know, take less money. Errol Spence is holding up the fight. Errol Spence should, you know, give Terence Crawford 50-50, but they will not tell you that Terence Crawford should just go ahead and take a less split, right? As Terence Crawford in his own words stated when he did an interview, if it was up to him, he would take a less split, you know, to make the fight happen because he's confident in his abilities. This is what Terence Crawford himself stated. He stated that he's confident in his abilities. He's confident he's going to win the fight. And so if it was up to him, he would take a less split, right? Just to make the fight happen because he knows he's going to win the fight is what Terence Crawford stated, right? This is Terence Crawford in his own words. He stated, if it was up to me, I'd take a less split, right? Well, we know based off of the numbers don't lie, they tell the truth, okay? So based off of the numbers, we know by going by the numbers that Terence Crawford is not a bigger draw than Errol Spence Jr. He's just not, okay? Based off the numbers, and you look at the numbers and you look at the facts, he's not a bigger draw than Errol Spence Jr. He's just not, okay? It's not a knock on Terence Crawford. His abilities and, you know, his talent is just the truth, okay? And so with that said, Terence Crawford, again, in his own words, right, he stated, you know, if it was up to him and he was in the position of Errol Spence, he was in a position of power, essentially letting the world know that, you know, Errol Spence is the bigger draw, right? You know, and he stated that, you know, he would, you know, give up the split, right? He would allow, you know, he would allow Errol Spence to have the bigger split, or, you know, he would take less than a 50-50 split, and he would just make the fight happen. This is Terence Crawford in his own words saying this exact thing, okay? And so when you say stuff like that, okay, people are going to hold you accountable, right? And then when you look at the actual numbers, okay, Errol Spence has done bigger numbers, period, right? When you look at, you know, the numbers, right, and you say, okay, well, you know, Terence Crawford, he did a pay-per-view, and on his pay-per-view, he did his first pay-per-view, 50,000 pay-per-views with Victor Postal. Then he did a reported 150,000 pay-per-views with Amir Khan. Then he did 150,000 pay-per-views reportedly or less with Sean Porter. Okay, so that's 350,000 pay-per-views in total. Right? 150 plus 550 is 200. Then 150 with Sean Porter. That's 350. Errol Spence did 350,000 pay-per-views with Mikey Garcia alone. That's just one fight. So his one fight with Mikey Garcia, he did as many pay-per-views, he sold as many pay-per-views as Terence Crawford did with 3 fights. And we know he's done a pay-per-view after that with Sean Porter, a pay-per-view after that with Danny Garcia, and a pay-per-view after that with Yadena Sulis. So he had 3 other pay-per-views after that fight. And he sold out a bigger arena. He sold out AT&T, Dallas Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, Texas. And he had 40,000 people in the arena. Okay, so when you look at it from that standpoint, right, it's just not an argument. It's just not. Okay, and you know, the thing is, you cannot knock Terence Crawford for wanting to get a 50-50 split. How could you knock him? Right? You can't knock him for wanting the big money. Who can tell you what his value is? Nobody. Only he can tell you that, right? And who can argue his value? Nobody. Right? You can't knock it. You can't tell him what his value is. You can't do any of those things. Right? But the numbers just don't lie. Plain and simple. The numbers tell the truth. And so because the numbers are telling you that Errol Spence is doing the bigger numbers, well, Errol Spence, he has, a case where he could just say, listen, I want this, and the numbers are telling me I should get this. So he can make a case to say, this is why I'm not giving you 50-50. As well as Terence Crawford can make an argument, I'm accomplished, I'm well established, this is the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. I'm 50% of the biggest 50% of the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, so I deserve it. Right? But listen to what Terence Crawford had to say when he did this interview and he talked about the split. Right? You can't say stuff like this and then say, why shouldn't I get a 50-50?
You think he's protecting himself and protecting his record, protecting that zero, and that's
you
why
have
he doesn't want
to
step
stand
in
in your
there
square,
because he knows
essentially.
what type of fighter you are?
Period.
A little bit. That has something to do with it a little bit, but at the same time, I just think he thinking the big picture. Like, if I take a chance like this, I need to be getting paid as much money as possible, just in case if I lose. He's talking about he want to fight this guy and fight this guy, so he's going to be the A side. He don't want a 50-50 fight. Well, that just lets you know right now he's not 100% confident in his own abilities. He can say what he wants. The casual fans can say what they want, but me, if I'm confident in my abilities, I'm like, okay, we can do it. It don't matter if it's 50-50 or not. I know I can win, so I don't have nothing to lose.
You think?
Listen what he said.
What they want, but me, if I'm confident in my abilities, I'm like, okay, we can do it. It don't matter if it's 50-50 or not. I know I can win, so I don't have nothing to lose.
Right there, you have it. I don't care if it's 50-50 or not. I know I'm going to win, and I'm confident, so I know I'm not going to lose, so I'll take less money. Well, there you have it. The numbers tell you that Errol Spence is pulling in the bigger numbers. He's the biggest star, okay? And Terence Crawford said that he's confident in his abilities, and if it was up to him, he don't care if it's 50-50 or not. He's taking a fight because he's confident he's going to win. Well, there you have it. Period. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV. All one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shouts out to the entire LDBC. Shouts out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.